Week 2 is in the books. Okay, so, highlight. I don't always know how to explain what I'm doing, and I've mentioned this before, how I'm doing multiple things at once, so it's hard for me to explain, and people don't always get what I'm up to. But having this grown-up school of your dreams, adulting like a kid framework, and some people knowing that I'm doing it has actually been really great, because I've had people message me being like, I know you're in class, but I have a question for you. Or if I've been on a call with somebody, as we're wrapping up, they're just like, oh, like what course are you going to next? Which is kind of great that there's just like this level of understanding, even though there's a low chance that they know what I'm actually doing or up to, but they can understand how I'm functioning. And that just feels nice to be able to communicate that to people, or for them to communicate that to me, and you feel less alone or something like that, which is kind of great, because as like a solo entrepreneur-y type thing, you have less coworkers than like at a big company. So understanding, highlight, yay, framework for people to talk about what you're up to. Low light. Ugh. I'm gonna go with it's a thing that I've known, but it was brought more to my attention that everything takes longer than I think it's going to. Like, oh, let me just write that email. That'll take like 5 or 10 minutes, and like 15-20 minutes later you're like almost done with that email. It's also like in the past when you're like, man, what did I do all day? You're just like, I worked on this one problem. But the future forward thinking you is like, has high hopes and dreams for how much we're going to get done. And so with sectioned off time, I definitely have like this is the start and the finish of where I get to work on paperwork, which is great because I know that I'm not going to get done, but I still think that I'm going to get farther than I do sometimes. So it's like kind of a low light in that I'm not getting done as much as I want to, but that's always the case in the problem. And so it was brought to my attention just like how much time things take. Again, not really like bad, but in the like, ugh, like that all of this is taking longer than I think it will, which is always the case. But I feel like maybe it's helping me get a little bit better grasp on that timing, where like I'm giving myself more grace moving forward of like, okay, like you only got 2 emails done in this correspondence time. Maybe just like focus on the one, and then there will be a bonus one or something like that. So time, things take time, and that's hard. And then realizations. I think that a big one for me is kind of just, we're now in like week 2.5, because the first week was a half week, first week, second week. And by now I've kind of gotten into more of a rhythm, and so I know this, but practice makes progress, and habits are created over time. Like you don't just flip a switch and suddenly you're better at something, or suddenly you're just doing it like you thought you would. Going to school was a shift for me, and so I'm kind of getting more into the rhythm of like, oh, I know what's next, I know what time things are, and getting into that feeling better, knowing how to also utilize my time in between. Like when I have a passing period around lunchtime, don't dilly-dally and like go check all my social media messages. No, go make lunch because class starts soon. You can do those other things later. So the rhythm and habit of practice is very real, and I know this, but getting to experience that, going through it and doing something new for the first time, and recognizing when the habit starts to take more shape or hold or anchors a little bit better. I feel like I started to get more into that this past week. And additionally, I like to do a lot of things. I always joke I don't do nothing well, in that I don't like to just sit and do nothing. But accepting that doing doesn't always have to be as active as like super action, in that I appreciate that this past week for Music Appreciation I didn't play guitar or piano. I actually did the listening to new band music that I'd been meaning to do because a friend told me some albums that were amazing that I hadn't listened to before. And so I took time to listen to new music for class, and that was the point, and I was doing something, but it wasn't like I was trying to be productive in that way. However, me being me, I couldn't just sit and do nothing and listen. So I did also had recognized some other deadlines that I had going on, which are still real. And so I listened to the music, but I also did something that was a little bit art studio homework-y, in that I was changing some formatting of stuff that I didn't have to like think too hard about. But I got to appreciate good music while I was good and new music while I was getting something else done and doing a little bit of catch up for another course because something was due. So doing can mean a lot of things. Action can take a lot of forms, and that's okay. Like, thinking is work. Thinking is really hard. Making sentences and words make sense is also hard. Did a lot of that this week. Anyway, that's my recap. I'm going to stop before these get super long.